I've been inspired to do research on the term reflation. I was watching some videos of Ray Dalio speaking on our economy right now, and I didn't know the definition of reflation. I've heard of inflation and deflation, of course, but I don't hear the term reflation thrown around very often, so I took it upon myself to start doing some research. I found this agriculture publication that was made in 1923. I will skip through. I won't read it verbatim because this is just going to give a gist of money and reflation. This is actually a really interesting read because it goes really deep. Now, this was back in 1923. It says, it seems evident then that in mapping out policies to meet the agricultural emergency, we can develop several lines of attack. One line takes us in the direction of reflation in an attempt to raise the general commodity price level toward pre-depression levels. This would raise agricultural prices to the point where the majority of farmers would be able to make ends meet. It would equalize prices and costs by raising prices. So when you have prices declining, but your expenses are staying the same, let's say you have loans out, you're paying $100 in loans, right, which are your expenses, but you're only bringing in $50 worth of revenue, that's obviously not going to help. So let me go to another section of this where it goes more into detail about what's going on here. It starts to talk about the value of money. It says, unless the world intends to let its price levels drift up or down to whatever point the supply of gold, the distribution of gold, credit policies, and other forces carry them, some form of control of the general price level is imperative. Since we are now suffering from a declining price level, such control would now be exercised in the direction of inflation or reflation toward the levels existing before the decline began. The intent and purpose of reflation becomes clearer if we consider for a moment what the dollar really is. The dollar is to the economists and the business world what the foot rule is to the engineer. It is the standard unit of measure, the yardstick by which value is measured. Suppose that all engineering foot rules had increased in size during the last 3 years so that they were now 18 inches long instead of 12 inches. Confusion and breakdown in the engineering world would immediately result. No new machinery or implements or tools would fit in with those already in operation. The obvious remedy would be not to stretch the size of every product in existence to fit the stream of new goods made with the new 18-inch foot, but to shorten the foot rule down to its original length. That is what the reflationists propose to do with the dollar. They propose to reduce its length or value or purchasing power to its previous status. So, there's my answer to what reflation is. I think that was a pretty awesome description or example. Let me go a little bit further. We have this one right here, page 69. Ordinary methods not effective now. So we're talking about back in 1923. And we're going through some similar ordeals right now. And Ray Dalio talks about the history within the last 500 years about empires, which I think is really awesome. And to find something back in 1923 puts us there with Ray Dalio on looking at the history repeating itself and things of that nature. So let me go ahead and get into this. It says, this is the record of the efforts of the Federal Reserve Banking System and the Reconstruction Finance Corporation to promote reflation, at least to check deflation. it can be objected that the Federal Reserve System did not move quickly enough nor decisively enough, but after it did start, it carried the regular methods of credit control to extremes never heard of before. And what were the results? The Federal Reserve System performed a real service in checking deflation and reducing or at least postponing some liquidation. But the blunt facts remain that as far as raising the price level is concerned, the results were nil. Indeed, although the general price level flattened out from May to September of this year, this was published in 1923. So this might have even been 1922. I'm not really sure. I didn't read up that far. But anyways, it is now declining again. And again, they're talking about the price levels. And it says, what is the trouble? Why have these measures not taken hold? The reason is that the forces of deflation are too powerful and widespread for the ordinary methods of bank credit inflation to take effect. They said that these methods are like steering an automobile, and that ordinarily only a touch on the wheel is needed to keep the machine on the road. There is a further resemblance. These measures will not work if some obstruction pushes the machine off the road entirely. If you are driving an automobile and meet a heavy truck that forces you off the road into a muddy ditch, skillful handling of the controls may keep you from overturning, but it will not get you out. That is roughly the situation the country is in. Again, that's 1923. That is roughly the situation the country is in at the present time. The world dislocations outlined in circular number 2 of this series have forced our economic machine off the highway. Ordinarily, the supply of credit is the factor that controls the volume of money and the general price level. But at the present time, the limited factor is not the supply of credit, but the demand for it. There is plenty of credit in the banking system, but the bankers are afraid to let go of it, and people are afraid to take hold of it. Even when a manufacturer can persuade a banker to make him a loan, there is no profit in borrowing money to make automobiles, radios, furniture, etc., if the goods cannot be sold after they are made. In ordinary times, producers and consumers keep calling for more credit or purchasing power than the banking system can supply. When the supply of bank credit or purchasing power is increased, then it is taken in tenfold amounts by the general public. General purchasing power and demand is increased and prices rise. But now the general public's demand for funds or credit or purchasing power is less than the supply. So measures for increasing the supply do not have their usual effect on price levels. The ordinary methods of bank credit inflation are incompetent to deal with a major price decline such as that which we are now going through. They amount to nothing more than an attempt to check deflation. In times like the present, they cannot be considered as reflationary measures. They are only anti-deflationary. The conclusion to be drawn is not that reflation has been tried and found impossible. The fact of the matter is that reflation has not yet been attempted. If we want reflation, we must turn to the stronger measures. And it says here that several different methods of attaining inflation and reaching the ultimate goal of stabilization of the value of money are being advocated by leading authorities, and these measures will be presented and discussed in a later publication in this series. I have not yet found that series where they mention what methods they use. I think that would be pretty neat to dig into, because if Ray Dalio is talking about reflation, then that means that we will probably try something that we've tried in the past. So seeing what they did in the past to, I guess you would say, get that vehicle back on the road again from the obstruction would be really nice to see what worked in the past. And mind you, back then we did have a gold standard, and now our storeholder of wealth, we don't even know what that is right now, really. I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of these big professionals know where they're leading to, but they're not coming out and saying it. However, let me go ahead and end this, and thank you for listening and reading along with me, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.